Sometimes the most powerful moment between a man and a woman is silence. No messages, no calls, no reactions to stories, just distance. And strangely, this is where many people start thinking about each other the most. Most men assume that when communication stops, attraction disappears, but human psychology works very differently. In many situations, when both people stop contacting each other, something deeper actually begins to happen. Not always, but often. And if you understand the psychology behind this silence, you start to see attraction in a completely different way. Most modern relationships don't end with dramatic breakups anymore. Instead, they fade. Two people who once spoke every day suddenly stop messaging. No argument, no explanation, just silence. At first, both people wait. The man might think, maybe she's busy. The woman might think, if he wanted to talk, he would reach out. Days pass. Then a strange psychological dynamic begins. Both people start wondering about the other, but neither of them makes the first move. This situation is extremely common in modern dating, and many men interpret it incorrectly. They assume she lost interest. But that's not always the full story. Because silence between two people can trigger several powerful psychological responses. Let's break down what is actually happening. Human attraction is not built only through communication. It is also built through absence. When someone is constantly present, predictable, and available, the mind becomes comfortable. But when presence disappears, curiosity appears. The brain begins filling the gaps with imagination, and imagination is one of the strongest drivers of attraction. Psychologists call this the uncertainty effect. When someone is not fully available, the brain pays more attention to them. This doesn't mean ignoring someone creates attraction, but it does mean that distance can amplify emotions that already exist. So when a man and woman stop contacting each other, several psychological processes begin happening beneath the surface. 1. The curiosity effect. Silence creates questions, and questions create attention. When communication stops, the mind naturally begins searching for answers. She might think, why hasn't he texted me? Did he lose interest? Is he talking to someone else? Men experience the same thing. The absence of information forces the brain to focus more intensely on the person. A man who once casually thought about her might suddenly replay conversations in his mind. Moments that seemed small before now feel more meaningful. Curiosity is a powerful psychological trigger, and silence feeds it. 2. Emotional processing begins when two people talk constantly. They rarely have time to process their emotions. Communication fills every space, but when contact stops, the mind becomes quiet, and quiet creates reflection. She may begin remembering the way he spoke, his confidence, the feeling she had when they were together. Without constant messages distracting her, she begins evaluating the connection more honestly. Men often go through the same process. At first, silence feels normal, but after a few days, memories start resurfacing, and this reflection can sometimes strengthen attraction, because emotions often become clearer when distance exists. 3. The ego standoff. Sometimes silence is not about attraction. It is about pride. Both people might want to reach out, but neither wants to be the one who appears more interested, so they wait. She might think, if he cared, he would text. He might think, if she wants to talk, she'll message me. This creates a psychological standoff. Not because attraction is gone, but because both people are protecting their ego. This dynamic is extremely common in early dating stages, and ironically, two people who like each other can remain silent simply because neither wants to appear vulnerable. 4. Value perception changes in psychology. Scarcity increases perceived value. When someone becomes less available, the brain often reassesses their importance. If a man was always texting first, always available, always initiating conversations, his presence might have felt predictable. But when he disappears for a while, his absence changes the dynamic. She might begin wondering what he is doing, who he is with, why the attention stopped. This doesn't mean playing games, but it shows how human perception works. When someone is constantly present, their value can sometimes be overlooked. Distance reintroduces awareness. 5. Reality testing happens. Silence forces both people to ask an important question. Do I actually miss this person? Without constant communication maintaining the connection, emotions become clearer. If attraction was only superficial, silence usually ends the connection. But if genuine interest existed, silence often reveals it. She might suddenly feel the urge to text him after a few days, not because she is bored, but because she realized she actually enjoyed talking to him. This moment of realization is important. It transforms attraction from casual interest into conscious desire. 6. Emotional investment becomes visible. Another thing silence reveals is who was truly invested. When communication stops, eventually someone reaches out. The person who reconnects is usually the one who felt the stronger emotional pull, but this is not a competition. It simply reveals emotional reality. Sometimes the man reaches out, sometimes the woman does, and sometimes neither does. When made naturally, and that is not failure. That is clarity. Because real attraction does not need to be forced. It grows naturally between two people who enjoy each other's presence. Even after distance, when a man and a woman stop contacting each other, it can feel confusing, but silence often reveals more than constant conversation. It reveals curiosity. It reveals emotional investment. It reveals whether the connection was genuine or just temporary attention. The key is not to chase and not to assume. Instead, focus on your own life, your growth, your purpose. Because the most attractive quality a person can have is emotional stability. And when you understand these dynamics, dating becomes much simpler, not because you control the outcome, but because you finally understand the psychology behind it.